Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the clinical diagnosis called depression. I have, and I'm sure some of you have as well. Some of you may even be dealing with it right now. Well, I'm here to talk to you today about depression and how much it can affect teenagers. According to Business Insider, ages 16 to 19, that group has the highest percentage of depression in the United States. And according to the World Health Organization, it can lead to suicide. Based on this, we should be having a conversation about the adverse effects that depression can have on one's life. I want to inform you on how big of an impact it can be on one's life. By the end of this speech, you should understand what depression is, how you can identify it in a teenager, and what we can do to prevent it or avoid it from worsening. Now, let's really understand depression. The definition is that it's an illness that involves mood changes, physical changes, eating disorders, and other things such as too much sleeping or too little sleeping, such as insomnia. Some symptoms are losing interest in activities that they once loved, helplessness, hopelessness, sleeping problems, anxiety, mood swings, and suicidal thoughts. Now that you know what depression is, let's move on to depression in teens. Depression affects teens the most because they feel helplessness and powerless in certain situations in their life. For example, divorce, loneliness, death. These are all things that can cause one to feel lonely and powerless and helpless, and which can also lead to depression. And these are just a few to name. There are a lot more. According to Healthline, studies show that 15% of adolescents and children are diagnosed with depression. This includes low performance at school, withdrawing from family and friend activities, as well as a decrease in energy. This illness stems from the brain, and there's a greater risk if there's less activity in the frontal lobe of the brain. In 2013, a 17-year-old named Kevin Briel prepared to commit suicide by taking a bottle of pills and a paper and a pen by his side. Unfortunately, everyone thought that Kevin was happy all the time because he had an amazing life, he was popular, he was on the basketball team, and he had friends for days. But little did they know, he had depression. He said that real depression isn't being sad when something goes wrong. Real depression is being sad when everything in your life is right. But fortunately for Kevin, he now is on TED Talk, and he goes to schools informing students and kids about how depression can affect one's life and how you can change. Now that we've covered depression in teens, let's move on to some things that we can do to help avoid or prevent worsening that depression. We can suggest exercise. Feel good endorphins. That's what comes out when you exercise. And this is a good distraction from those negative thoughts and everything that you feel is going wrong with your life. And it's a very healthy and very good outlet. Tell them to cut back on social media. You know there's such thing as social comparison. You're comparing your life to somebody else's life over the phone. It's not beneficial to your depression, and it will not help you decrease that. Now that we have an idea of what we can do to help avoid or prevent worsening depression, let's move on. As we've seen, depression is way more common in teens than it is in any other group. This can heavily affect their lives. And when we're informed, we're helpful. When they're alone and they feel that they have nobody to turn to, they start having suicidal thoughts. But we can help by suggesting exercise, picking up new hobbies, learning new things that can help them grow and maybe, prevent depression, prevent those adverse effects that we were talking about earlier. I'm leaving you with this useful information, and I hope that you are now able to identify depression in a teenager or anybody that's around you in your daily life. How it's important to have an open conversation, and that we should all understand and know what to do in the case of a loved one or teenager having depression. Thank you.